work session. And you condensed everything down to one page?
That's it.
Good.
PowerPoint's on one page.
Yeah.
Wow.
You want to call the roll for work
Yeah,
session?
please.
Mr. Farley? Here. Brown?
Here.
Barker? Here. Mr. Rich?
Here.
Dr. Houghton?
Here.
Mr. Ellis? Mayor Goodwin?
Here.
We have a quorum.
Okay, you're up.
All right. Good evening. I'm Isaac Kramer. I'm the Executive Director of the Charleston County Board of Elections and Voter Registration. Definitely love to drive in to Folly tonight. So thank you for letting me talk to you all tonight at this workshop. I want to give you a little bit of background before I begin my presentation. We are the county, obviously, and we run probably 90% of the elections for municipalities in Charleston County. Folly Beach is one of four, that has their own municipal election commission, and they are one of three that are not in odd-year Novembers. We conduct elections for everyone in Charleston County, but usually that term conduct elections gets kind of muddied. Municipal election commissions exist here in Folly Beach. We have one in Sullivan's Island, we have one in Megget, and we have one in Hollywood, and we have one in the city of Charleston. The city of Charleston conducts their elections in odd-year Novembers, as you all are probably aware of that. The role of the Municipal Election Commission, as way of background in Folly Beach and the other municipalities, they are to conduct the elections. So, conduct elections means everything, from the notice, to the poll workers, to the training, to the equipment, to the ballots, every step of the process, and I'll show you that here. So, the process is pretty large. It's not something that you just wake up and the election is conducted and it just happens. So, traditionally, our office has come in and we have conducted the elections for Folly Beach, meaning we provided the equipment, we provided the training, we provided the ballots, the proofing, working with Wes, with Aaron to get your notice, to get absentee ballots to voters, getting early voting set up, getting the equipment properly tested, getting the equipment to the polling location, training the poll workers on the election laws of South Carolina, and then giving your MEC the advice for provisional ballots. Obviously, the most recent election you all are aware of is the referendum that happened in February, and that election we partnered with the MEC, but really we are the ones who had our hand in every step of that process to ensure we had a smooth election. So these processes are what should an MEC do. This is what their basic functions are. I'm not going to read every single bullet point, but this is to demonstrate all. Now my screen is frozen. There we go. A little lag there. So you had the start of the year, and y'all's elections are in April, but it goes all the way to when we get to showtime, which is 30 days prior to an election. And that's when the role of the MEC really would come into the training of our poll workers, making sure that they know the election laws. Does the MEC know the election laws? The MEC have the training and certified by the State Election Commission? Are they following the state protocols with procedures and policies? Are they following election laws? They're responsible for all the oaths that are taken. They're responsible for early voting oaths, poll worker oaths. They're responsible for a security plan. They're responsible for the polling location setup and going through all of the stuff with law enforcement. They are in charge of educating and advising the public on the election coming up. Also in charge of voter registration information, absentee information, early voting, testing of the equipment. And you would say, we don't have the election equipment. We do, but you would have to purchase that equipment to conduct your election without our assistance. So then you have 2 weeks out, early voting starts. A week before, we still have early voting. We still have the preparation for the election. Then we start going to the opening of absentee ballots, the reading of those absentee ballots, the tallying of those ballots. And then on election day, we have a whole lot of things going on, as you know. And we have a lot of boots on the ground. The MEC would be at the polling location, working with the clerk and the poll workers to ensure a smooth election. However, you have a post-election process, and that's a lot of things that would be on the role and the task of the MEC. We handle all of this right now. This is our full-time job, 365. No matter if we have a special election, a municipal election, a statewide general election, a primary, this is what we do. This is our bread and butter. This is what we're paid to do every single day. This part, the post-election process, y'all have runoffs. Well, runoffs are 2 weeks after the first election. So you have a compressed timeline immediately after your election. So you're looking at the provisional ballots, and then you're immediately planning for that runoff election. So basically everything we did starting 30 days, that's compressed now into a 2-week timeline that the MEC would have to be responsible for. And I look over my shoulder, there's 2 members of the MEC here, and thankful that they're here. But the work that the MEC would have to do, they would have to have full-time staff, which we look to the city to help with staffing for that. But this is a lot of processes that go into making an election. Historically, we have fulfilled this role. This has been something that's been a handshake agreement. That's just been, we, the Board of Elections, have done this just kind of as a help to the city. I become director in April of 2021, and one of our goals has been to move all our municipalities to odd year Novembers. And that's what I'm talking to you about today. I would love to see the city of Folly Beach, not just because it's convenient, but it would be a cost savings for you. You're the only show in town still. You're not competing with any other elections on Folly Beach. You don't have county, statewide, primary, nothing. You are still the mayor, council, referendum is the only thing on the ballot for the city of Folly Beach if you move to odd year November. I personally want to see, and this is happening in the state, a move toward getting a coordinated elections. And that's to have voters know that elections happen in November of odd and even years. And in Charleston County, we're almost there. We have 4 more, and you're probably gonna ask me about this, but Kiowa Island just passed first reading last week to move their elections to odd year Novembers. And I met with Sullivan's Island last Monday, and they're also headed toward moving to odd year Novembers. They're in May right now of odd years. Election costs. A lot of people think money, but election costs go greater than just the monetary value we associate with the side of elections. We have labor, we have the equipment. So I'm going to talk about the equipment for a second. In order to conduct your own election, you'd have to purchase the equipment necessary to do that. We already own that equipment. We give that opportunity to let the city of Folly Beach use our equipment. We basically lease it to you all to use. But if you were to go on your own, you would have to purchase all the voting equipment to conduct your elections. That's from poll books to the actual ballot marking devices to the scanner that is used to read those ballots. And then all the paper costs, and then associated with the maintenance agreements that you would have with the company, as well as sending west to Omaha, Nebraska to get trained for multiple weeks, and then probably hiring a staff of 1 or 2 people to help with the election process. Because you can have a special election anytime. It doesn't matter. You have to have a special election when there's a vacancy. We saw it with a referendum this year. You can have an election in an odd or even year. So you need to always be prepared for that potential. You have to go through the training with the State Election Commission that's required by state law. You have to have your MEC do the same exact thing. You're going to see a huge shift from just, hey, we're spending $10,000 to run an election, to actually increasing that cost to over $100,000 just for the equipment, and then maybe $20,000 to $30,000 just in annual agreements to have the equipment through the company. That's reality. And then you have your staff and the training. And I told Wes this, but I really do believe it. Wes's job changes significantly if you all conduct your own elections. He will be the person over that, and that's a long, full-time job. It really is, just to make sure you're up to date on all the security of election laws. We have election laws being passed every year. We are always up to date on those. Always up to date on those. You have the supplies, you have the training, the public notices, the equipment testing, voter education, the security, and we've seen this, I know we have members of the public here, but we were monitoring for security threats in your election in February. We were having a member of the EOC in our office in case something happened in a polling location. But that's the climate we live in, y'all. It is. It's not just schools. We care about election processes, and this is our full-time profession to consider all those things. So election security is number one in my book, making sure we have secure polling locations, even if it's only incumbents running for re-election, because you never know what can happen on election day or during the early voting process. So I want to go over some of the scheduling competing timelines that we have. So next year, your election's in an even year. It's April. It's right against the presidential preference primaries, the June primaries, and candidate filing. So for our office to conduct an election for Folly Beach is actually a difficult thing to do in the midst of all we are doing in preparations for the even year. So February, I'm just showing you this little timeline here. We're anticipating the Republican primary probably be the 17th or 24th. We don't have an exact date. The Democratic primary is in January 28th, if there is one. Followed by candidate filing, early voting, all the stuff going on for y'all are happening all in March. And we have our own candidate filing for all the partisan offices happening at the end of March. Then you see your election day on May 2nd. Yellow should also be on the 16th. That's kind of a potential for a runoff. And then we move right into, and then we have military and overseas ballots going out that weekend of the 19th for the June primaries. And then we have the elections for the June primaries right up against that. So you will have, in essence, potentially 4 elections for your residents here on Folly Beach within the first 6 months of the year. That's a lot of elections. And one thing we do see is the more elections you have, the more fatigue people have, and they don't show up. And I'll have a fun slide for you all at the end where you have your rivals in Isle of Palms, and I'll show you their turnout versus Folly Beach's turnout. This just gives you a broader timeline. I mean, y'all have this information already, this PowerPoint. But another thing I wanted to outline is your absentee ballots. So in South Carolina, the applications for an absentee ballot, it's on a generic form. The title at the top is different, and this is a state prescribed form, and voters can get confused with the 3 different applications that they could have. So you have a lot of folks here that are retired, that are qualified for an absentee ballot. They would get 3 applications for all elections they're responsible, or they're eligible to vote in, and they look similar, so they may only return 1 of them. And they say, why didn't I get my ballot? Well, it's because there's 3 distinct applications, all due at the same timeline. All right, the slide I promised. Turnout. You all know that you had your special election in February. It was a hot button issue. Not going to go into that. You had an impressive turnout, but that's not the norm. Your municipal elections in April, this is the norm. That's based on last municipal election, 30%. And then in Isle of Palms, our November election had 44% turnout. So moving to a November, actually you'll have more engaged citizens. And we see this not just in South Carolina, but this happens across the country. There's a lot of research into that. All right, Isaac, how many municipalities in South Carolina, not just Charleston County, have November odd years? 62%, but that number is growing. Every county, it's a top priority of ours to get coordinated elections, and that is moving to the odd year Novembers. Part of the benefits, because it's not just about what the county would like to see, but you optimize your voter turnout. Also, your costs go down because you're pooling all the elections into one day. The costs go down for your election overall. So that goes from delivery of the equipment to the trainings to using our equipment. You would get a reduced rate, and your costs probably going to cut by 33%, which will be cheaper than what you would normally face in an April election. You maximize the early voting period. We're not going to have early voting in the midst of all the things we have going on closer to your residents on the island. In November, they'll go to James Island right here, 5 minutes up the road, which they did in the gubernatorial election. We will have that open again. Also, it raises the profile on municipal elections. So having it all in one day, you will highlight the importance of municipal elections, not just in Folly Beach, but for the county as a whole. And then ultimately, and this is for your staff, you're going to minimize employee fatigue because they're not the ones that have to worry about all the election that they're solely responsible for. We will burden that and share and do the election. All right, so it's gonna come up here. So if you want to move to a November odd year election, you will have two options. Council can shorten their term to have the election this year in November, or they can lengthen their term to have the, typo there, election in November of 2025. Those are two options, and that is totally up to council. It does not impact me, but the only impact it would have is that we'd be doing your election this year versus in 2025, but we're already preparing for our November election, so it has no overall impact on our office. Next, we talked about all the things that your MEC is charged to do. And we do this for, like I said, most of our municipalities in Charleston County, we already conduct the elections legally for the municipality. So council can choose to transfer that authority to the Board of Elections, which is already happening in Charleston County. This is not something new. Or you can continue with your MEC, and the MEC is still going to have those responsibilities, but we would work out an intergovernmental agreement to basically provide your election services. The things I outlined, we would still provide those, but with an IGA. My recommendation is to transfer the authority, because that is our full-time job. That is what we do. We go through the trainings, we follow the laws, we have the equipment, we do all those things. But once again, I'm here because I would really just talk about on your November elections. Council can choose to continue with their MEC, but the climate, the things we're going through is increasing. We are the trained professional staff that handle this every single day, and it's something that we're consistently every single day monitoring and preparing for. And just to let you know, just coming up, you're not the only municipality. I got Kiowa Island, Sullivan's Island, y'all, Megget, and Hollywood. They're the 5, and we already have 2 that are moving toward the odd year Novembers. The other 2 I'll be meeting with as well and getting them that same page. So I'm not going to go much further because I want to answer questions and just be a resource to you all and the election process. All right. Yes, sir.
All right, so if we were to do nothing and await the state to make a determination, what does that mean for the next April election here at Folly Beach?
Great question. We had the hearing was today, Tuesday. Last Thursday, it passed favorably out of subcommittee in the House side. It will go to full judiciary where it will get favorable. It's got a Democratic and Republican sponsor. This bill will pass, and if it passes, council will not be allowed to extend your terms. That will not be allowed. So there's an amendment that is being proposed potentially that will, if you're in an even year, you cannot extend your term. If you're in an odd year, you can extend to November because it might be only 3 months or 4 months extension. For y'all being in April, that's almost an 18-month extension or 19-month extension for your term of office. So do nothing. You will be forced to move your elections. You just won't have the autonomy to determine if you're extending your term or shortening your term.
So said differently, you're not here to support us in April.
Correct. Correct. This is to let you know we are no longer going to support the elections here in April of even years. You move to November of odd years, we will support your elections. Same thing I told Sullivan's Island.
Thank you.
Kiowa, yes, but they're
Extending it, right?
they're extending. They're in December of even years, so they're kind of opposite y'all. They're at the end of a presidential election, and they're going to extend to 2025. That's what the ordinance allows them to do.
Can I just, I know it's gonna be asked, the timing. All right, if this bill passes, say in July, is there gonna be enough time to have an election for you guys to prepare for an election in November, this November?
All we're required is to give a 60-day notice for an election. So as long as we have 60 days, we can go forward.
And Isaac, if the bill doesn't pass, or if the bill passes, say in July, and the state recognizes that that's not enough time to turn things around and says, okay, this is gonna apply after the next election, would you guys still not support us in April?
No. We have, the amount of scrutiny that is under elections at the county level with 4 countywide elections in a presidential election year, we will not be able to support Folly Beach's election, especially in that March timeline of what we have.
So Isaac, I just got a call right before I walked up here saying that this bill didn't make the crossover, so it probably won't be passed this year. Unless the Senate shows up with 2/3 of the majority saying we want it, they don't think that'll happen, but it don't matter.
Yeah.
And as I told you in our conversation before, I was always against moving the election because I didn't want the election to be bastardized, for lack of a better word, with all the other stuff, and we would end up on the end of the ballot after everything else was listed. But moving it to an odd year where all the constituency is Folly Beach information, you took my argument away. So I don't see personally, the question for the council is, not that you don't wanna move it, or that you're gonna move it. You're probably gonna move it one way or the other, guaranteed, one way or the other. But the question would be, how do you wanna move it? Do you wanna move it to November 2023, saying shorten the terms, what was that, 6 months, 5 months, and then, or do you wanna move it to 2025, the length of the terms? That would be the question. And you have that option right now. Yeah, just my 2 cents.
Mayor, that is a great point. Just want to reiterate that. You are the only show in town. Folly Beach is at the top of the ballot. It's just your election. It would be the same exact thing. It's just in November instead of April.
Oh, what?
I think we just got told how it's gonna be, so there's no point in saying that.
Now, you're still allowed to have questions.
No, we can have questions, but there's no point, is what you're telling us. You're not supporting us moving forward with any elections. So I think we're kind of done here.
Yes, ma'am.
I'm not, I mean, this is a lot to process, it's sort of kind of coming a little bit out of left field. So my question really is, are we really, and is it fair and somewhat ethical, to determine our own destiny in the sense of, I don't necessarily feel comfortable one way or the other to say, keep me or shorten me. So what really could there be a process? Because I'm not sure that's my role.
That's not his role.
He doesn't care.
That's not your, whose role is it?
It's yours.
It's my role.
It's yours to make that decision.
I would say, for the record, I don't feel it's appropriate to extend or shorten any sitting council member or elected official's position. I think it would always be best to do so prospectively. So if someone was running for a shortened term or running for an extended term, they knew what they were getting into before they did it. Furthermore, the public knew what they were voting for when they went to the polls. And I do, to a degree, agree with Dr. Howell.
Well, whether it gets crossed over to this year or if it gets crossed over next year, the bill has traction, it's gonna pass.
I got one question for you. How long have y'all known this was coming? How long have you been working on this? Because to give us this information this late, you're talking about potential November elections a few months away. That is not a lot of time, and it does put us in a precarious situation. So if you've known about it for a year or two, thanks for the heads up. You know?
No, I will say that when Spencer was when she was here, Joe Debney, my predecessor, started that conversation. This has been a conversation that's ongoing. When I became director in 2021, I did start reaching out to municipalities about this. Had conversations with staff prior to this meeting, hey, this is what's coming, and that is what we're going for, is to get odd year November elections and having a coordinated election
In my
process.
mind, it's working. If you would have started 6 months ago, it would have been a little more, appreciative. At this late date, we're stuck. It doesn't matter.
No.
I don't appreciate the lateness of it, and you're putting us between a rock and a hard place. You know, and I'm not saying you particularly, but
That's
you're
fine.
your department, you know, that's what you're
I
doing.
appreciate your feedback. I have had this conversation prior to today, and this is not something that just sprang out of nowhere. This has been a conversation that's been going on with the 5 municipalities for multiple years. This is, and the mayor's aware, this is not the first time this conversation about moving in November has come up. But it is a priority of our office to move our elections that we conduct in Charleston County to odd year Novembers, joining the other municipalities that already do that.
I hear you.
All right, let me say this, because we run out of time. This isn't something new. It's been talked about over and over and over again for years after year after year. This is the first time ever that there was a bill in the House that's got bipartisan support. It's gonna go. It's gonna go. And now is the time that you have to make now you have an option, it's the time to make a decision, in my opinion. Or you can say, we'll just sit back and wait. You won't have yourself in gear for an April election anyway, because you can't get all your stuff in gear to do that if he won't do it. So, and that's what he's sitting there telling you, he's not gonna do it. So, with that in mind, thank you, Isaac, but I'm sorry, we're into 7 o'clock meeting time.
No, I totally understand that. Just want to reiterate, I appreciate coming here. I know that it might not seem like that, but just reiterating at this point, just simple. A coordinated election schedule is not just about council, it's about everybody who helps conduct the election, from our poll workers to your voters, to the staff that do it. So appreciate the time, and this was not meant to spring something on you, 18 months out. So I'm sorry about that, you're out. So thank you for your time, and
Thank you. Okay, it's 7 o'clock. You want to call roll?
Mr. Marker?
Here.
Mr. Farley? Here. Mr. Groom? Here. Dr. Houghton?
Yeah.
Mr. Ellis? Mr. Rich? Here. Mr. Goodwin?
Here.
You have a forum.
So who has the invocation?
Well, I didn't ask anybody, so I got it.
We have an invocation followed by the pledge of allegiance.
All right. God, you're the builder of all things. Please guide us in this meeting. Help us come up with effective strategies that can enable us to move forward as a team in a meaningful way. Help us to generate good plans that are practical, sustainable, and easily implemented. Guide us towards the best way to take action to accomplish our goals, and help us tackle all the topics we need to discuss, come up with excellent solutions, and leave this meeting inspired and on time. Amen.
Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America, and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. So, the mayor's comments tonight, I have a lot. First off, I want to say there's a couple of things happening in June that you probably won't see, like in the Sandusburg real quick, but it's the Anglers Fishing Tournament for Take a Kids Fishing Day is back. Thank you, Gus. It'll be Saturday, June the 3rd, from 9 a.m. to 1 a.m. 9 a.m. to 1 p.m., excuse me, not a.m. This event is free for kids. All the kids between the ages of 4 and 16 are welcome. They do supply bait and tackle as long as it's available, and they have a lot. They've never run out before that I know of, so no pre-registration is required. So if you have kids or grandkids, take them down to the Folly Pier, June the 3rd, 9 to 1, to go fishing. Folly Beach will have its June blood drive, June the 21st, 9 to 2 at the Father Kelly Hall. So all the folks who like to give blood, June the 21st, mark that on your calendar. And you can pre-register several ways, but one way you can do it is you can email Dave Miller at deacondave73@gmail.com. That's the easiest one I can read for you. With that, where's the chief? Oh, there he is. So there's a lot of things going on in the area, and it's a lot of things going on around the state evidently. With the happening last week at Isle of Palm shooting, and there's been some stuff on social media like, oh, they're gonna come to Folly Beach day after tomorrow. So with that, we, just so you'll know, as citizens, what's been going on in the background as soon as that was published. I asked Chief Gilbert to give us a brief update on our proactive stance so far, and we're still working on it.
Sure.
I'm just gonna give you some bullet points. These aren't gonna be real specific information, because there's a reason for privacy as far as some of the things we're doing. That being said, we've contacted all state and local agencies with requests for assistance and manpower. We've contacted and shared information with all of our intelligence sources. We've contacted and are actively working with the Charleston County Emergency Management Division. We are upstaffing with our own staff. The State Fusion Center is monitoring social media and other sources. Obviously, one of the priorities is locating and dispersing crowds before they build. One of the things I wanted to point out both to y'all and for the citizens that are here listening is, like I put in just about every Sandsburg I write, is, you know, this is a tribe out here. We need everybody's help. If you see something that concerns you, please reach out. We're available. We have dispatchers here, and call it in. That'll help us in the long run. We are taking it serious. We'll be responding to anything we get called about and see, and that's the best information I can give you.
Yeah, basically, being the community we are, from city limit sign to city limit sign, from the ocean to the Harris Teeter, we all need to be one big giant community watch. And when you see something, don't hesitate to call the police department. That's what they're there for. Yeah, that helps them a lot. So keep your eyes open and keep your cell phones handy. Put the police department's number 588-2433 on speed dial so you can dial it up real quick. Thank you, Chief. Well, don't go too far, because you're up next for staff reports. For court fine collection. That's you.
All right, so one of the things I would like council to consider is looking at options as far as increasing credibility of our municipal court. One of the things and one of the trends that I've noticed over the last few years since some changes on the Supreme Court administration side in the municipal court's ability to issue bench warrants as easily as they used to be able to, is the number of folks that are ignoring the citations or ignoring the ruling of the court has been increasing. I think it behooves us to protect the sanctity of our court, to research what options we may have. I know Ms. Anita, our court clerk, is going to provide you some information. And I wrote some notes down that I could provide you, take a look at, as far as what I would like to see. At the end of the day, the court doesn't answer to me. It's not supposed to. These are just my suggestions. So I just wanted to give these to you, and y'all can, as you get information from Miss Anita, kind of look at what you want to do. Okay.
Thank you, Chief. Did you get that data?
You through?
Yes, that's it.
Okay. Are there any questions for Chief? Okay. Aaron, you're up next.
In 2017, we did a sea level rise adaptation report that looked at potential for future sea rise over a 50-year period, made some recommendations. Late last year, we started our 5-year update of that report. Dr. Nicole Elko, our coastal science consultant, is leading that effort. And as part of her work, she's created a survey for everyone to take, please. You go to our website, cityoffollybeach.com. You can search for sea level, and it should pop up. It says Folly 2050 Planning for Water. We've got the link up on Facebook too. So on Facebook or the website, or you can email me if you don't do Facebook or a website, but you can email, let me know, and we'll get you a paper copy. And basically this survey is asking folks, have you noticed flooding? Where have you noticed flooding? How is flooding impacting you on your day-to-day life? And some general questions about your awareness of the sea level rise adaptation report in general, and some of the things we've been doing as we knock off the to-do list from that report. There's also a new flood reporting form on that website. It's for the sea level rise report, but also just everyday use. I don't know if any of you guys are familiar with the My Coast app that we've been running for a few years, where you can take pictures of flooding. Eric Lutz is the #1 user of that app in the whole state. It's for everybody, not just city staff. It's a great way to report flooding. It helps us document over time problem areas, and we can then use that information to pursue funding for stormwater projects and other things. So it's really important, that kind of on-the-ground reporting that we don't see. I mean, we all anecdotally know where things are, but having actual proof of it really helps the city a lot. So visit cityoffollybeach.com, search for sea level rise. Please take that survey and follow along with us. Dr. Elko will probably be here next month to give further updates on that plan update.
Okay. Mr. Sullivan, you're up next.
Good evening. The EPA has started requiring utilities to test the water for PFAS, that's PFAS. What are PFAS? PFAS stands for per and polyfluorinated substances. They are known as forever chemicals. This is the group of chemicals used to make products that resist heat, oil, stains, grease, and water. This group contains everyday products such as shampoo, dental floss, non-stick cookware, and cleaning products. The EPA limit for PFAS is 4 parts per quadrillion. That's beyond me how much that is. The South Carolina Rural Water Association and the National Rural Water Association retained a law firm to file a cost recovery action against global manufacturers of these chemicals. This action will allow water systems to recover any expenses for future testing, treatment, and remediation due to PFAS contamination. There will be no cost to the city. I would like to get registered on this with council's approval. This is recommended by the Rural Water Association, South Carolina.
Forever Chemicals.
Forever chemicals. Any questions?
Okay, so we move on to the approval of the agenda. Have a motion to approve. Have a second? Second. Any discussion, corrections, additions? Go ahead.
Mr. Rich?
Yes.
Dr. Houghton?
Yes.
Mr. Grooms?
Yes.
Farley?
Yes.
Mr. Barker?
Yes.
Mayor Goodwin?
Yeah. So approval of the minutes from March the 14th.
Motion to approve.
Any second? Second. Any corrections or additions? Go ahead.
Dr. Houghton?
Yes.
Mr. Barker?
Yes.
Mr. Rich?
Yes.
Mr. Grooms?
Yes.
Farley?
Yes.
Mayor Goodwin?
Yes.
Passes.
On the personal appearances, we're gonna splash into spring. And Zakira? Zakira, okay, well, I didn't have a thing to tell me if I was a long eye or a short eye. Thank you. Just tell us where y'all from and what you want.
Good evening. I'm Officer Smith with the Charleston Police Department Community Outreach Team. This is my sergeant, Sergeant Folly. She's over my unit for the Community Outreach Team, and this is Sergeant Mitchell with the Folly Beach Police Department. The Charleston Police Department and Folly Beach have partnered together to do an event called Splash into Spring. And this event came about to educate families and children on the importance of water safety. A lot of people know what we do as law enforcement on the streets, but we also have harbor units and dive units that a lot of people aren't aware of what they do and what happens in events of water emergencies. And so we thought it would be great to put together this event to partner with other agencies as well, such as Mount Pleasant, as well as North Charleston, to bring out their harbor teams, their dive units, to educate families on, in the event you do have a water emergency, because Charleston is completely surrounded with water, what do you do, who do you call, and what is going to be, the response. We've also partnered with MUSC, who's going to be doing a CPR demonstration in the event that something does happen to someone who's been in the water and they've been taken out and emergency response isn't on scene. We're also going to have private swim companies come, as well as the North Charleston Aquatic Center, who's going to come in to give information about swim lessons in the area, as well as, different swim programs or things that people can take if their child doesn't have swim lessons, or the adult doesn't have swim lessons as well. In addition to that, we're also going to be grilling out. We're going to have our airboats out there, dive team equipment out there, giveaways for the children, such as floaties, goggles, things that they can use when they're in the water that they may or may not have. These things will be free. We won't be selling anything. We'll have our ice cream truck out there as well.
Prepaid ice cream truck. The plan right now is to host this event at the 3rd West Beach Access parking lot. It allows for the most space and access to public restrooms.
Is that y'all? That's you.
No, the date.
No, yeah.
Scheduled for May 13th, Saturday, May 13th, so that's Saturday before Mother's Day.
Have a motion for approval?
Motion to approve.
Second.
Any questions? Just because I looked it up, low tide that day is 8:24, so it'll all be coming in toward your event, but hopefully you still have enough room.
We'll mainly do the parking lot setup with the giveaways and food and that kind of stuff in the parking lot. Only thing that will really be beachfront would be like beach games
All right,
and stuff like that.
good enough.
So we have to shut off the paid parking for the day? Is that the request?
Yes.
Any other questions?
Mr. Grooms?
Yes.
Dr. Houghton?
Yes.
Mr. Barker?
Yes.
Mr. Rich?
Yes.
Mr. Farley?
Yes.
Mayor Goodwin?
Yes.
Passes.
Thank you.
Thank
We
you.
need to make sure we tell a parking lot. We need to make sure we tell anybody that has a franchise. to their parking lot. Yeah. Give me this. Ms. Cato, you're up next.
Good evening. My name's Mary Cato. I'm an almost 30-year resident of Folly Beach. I'm here tonight to ask for your support to improve the community services for our Folly Beach seniors. I believe this project pairs well with the celebration of our 50-year anniversary because many of our long-term residents are seniors who helped build the community into what it is today. And these seniors have increased need for community support services that are available in other local communities but not currently offered on Folly Beach. My goal is to assist the city in developing services to improve the safety, quality of life, and independence of seniors living in our community. This started as a discussion with Aaron Pope. Next, we completed a paper survey of desired services with our senior group who meet monthly. I then met with Lacey Deeds and Wes Graham to discuss programming Then the city offered a survey online to explore the senior interest and desired services. I have researched opportunities to develop transportation assistance with CARDOC. Oh, thank you. Exercise classes through Charleston County Parks and Rec, wellness programming with Roper Hospital and the Low Country Senior Center, and would also like to investigate opportunities for support for home safety assessments for things like smoke alarms, grab bars in the bathrooms, handrails on stairs, and equipment assistance for things like walkers and wheelchairs, and a gym on the island with equipment for seniors to use. And there's also a need for increased social outlets targeted to the interests of our seniors, which could be a weekly game hour hosted at a location such as a community center when it's not in use, Father Kelly Hall, the Folly Beach Baptist Church Hall, or the Exchange Club building, or a weekly luncheon scheduled at a local restaurant with a price fix menu or generous local senior discounts, or even city funded. I ask these services be under the umbrella of the city of Folly Beach, which would include funding and staff supervision and management hours. I also ask that the services be limited to full-time resident seniors or members of the Folly Beach Seniors Group and not be open to non-resident or short-term visitors. I would like Lacey Deeds to now speak about the results of the survey completed. Is this working? Okay.
Just hold it in your mouth.
Okay. We actually put together, what do we have on there, 15 questions?
Something like that.
Yeah. We sent it out electronically through the email contact list that I have, which is through Parks and Rec and the moms, etc. We had it on Facebook and two different platforms. So we received 32 responses back on that, and I actually sent you those responses that came back in. The 32 responses actually I thought was fairly good because this was so directed at the seniors and not my normal clientele, which is the kids. So we got some good feedback. There was a lot of shares that went on with that. I think actually the written responses that she had were probably a little more direct as to what the needs are, what the wants are here. But we did receive some good responses back. I think that there is a lot of desire in the community to see senior programming happen. Obviously, that's going to be up to you, but we have the information, and I sent it on to you, and she has a lot more than I do. So I'm going to turn this back over to you.
And Ms. Cato, I can,
Yes.
and just to add a little more context, the reason this is before you guys is not that necessarily there's any vote tonight, but when Ms. Cato approached me earlier this year, late last year, I gave her the standard response. We're a public body with a fixed budget and a kind of a predetermined programming for the year. We don't have a senior services department, so we can't do all those things right now. But if we'd like to get city council on board, the first thing we need to do is measure demand, find out what it is we'll be asking for or what we would propose to city council. And it just so happens that the budget process is coming up, and that's the perfect time to do it. So we assisted with the survey to kind of get an idea of what type of things the city could offer that would be utilized. And that's kind of where we are now. We don't have a senior services department. In order to do that, it has to be funded. Before we fund it, we need to discuss what the scope of it was. Is it a new person? Is it extra duties for an existing person? How much will it cost? What will we offer? Ms. Cato has done a tremendous amount of work surveying basically every public and nonprofit agency in the Tri-County area that's related to senior services. And she's got a wealth of information about what's available, how the city could interact with those folks as a coordinator, and what we could do in-house. But before we can do anything, we'll probably be coming for your discussion during the budget meetings. How far do we want to go with that this year, next year, any year? How do we want to move into serving the seniors, or do we want to move into serving the seniors in a more formal capacity than we do now? So there's no action tonight, but starting now in this budget season, if we're gonna move towards providing more services to seniors as an official city function, this is how that discussion starts.
I think it's a great idea. I just generated a quick list of people that have grabbed me because I knew that you were out there. Pilates, aquatics, chair yoga, meditation, one-day trips, walking groups, stretching, crafts, knitting, book clubs, you name it. Croquet. So, sky's the limit.
Just do no motion on the floor. I know, we're not supposed to.
I can't give her feedback.
We're not supposed to.
Well, there's nothing to make a motion for, because she's not asking for a specific thing right now, so,
Good job.
Thank you.
thank you. Mr. Warren,
Hi, my name is Jeffrey Warren. I own 120 West Ashley, and I've talked to Mr. Sullivan at the utility department about connecting to the sewer. Currently, the sewer line goes down to the end of the first block of West Ashley, right at Loggerheads. Our property is right across the street from Loggerheads, and I'm here today to ask council to be able to connect to the sewer.
Motion to approve.
have a second?
So this is a tie-in, not extension, correct?
Right,
Okay, just making sure that was out there.
that was the first question.
Yeah.
So, and then Mr. Warren has to pay for all the,
Right, but we're not going any further. He's literally right there. He's just tapping it.
yeah, he's just tapping into what's in front of him already. Any other questions? Mr. Foley?
Mr. Farley,
Yes.
Dr. Houghton,
Yes.
Mr. Rich,
Yes.
Mr. Broom. Yes. Mr. Barker,
Yes.
Mayor Goodman.
Yes,
Passes.
thank you. Citizen comments?
Kelly Travers, 303 West Hudson Avenue, owner of Events on the Edge. I am just here to speak to ordinance 006-23, which is up for the second reading this evening, regarding approval by the Special Events Committee for weddings over 25 people. Just after speaking with the community and for myself, we were hopeful to appeal that thought of 25 people. We just feel that it's a little low. That's 12 and a half guests for each side of the family, which is typically very low, maybe not even all immediate family. So we were hopeful to see an increase up to 50 people for that. We definitely think there should be regulation. We were just looking to hopefully raise that cap. We just feel that 25 would greatly limit and deter people from wanting to get married here if they have to wait for special event approval. So that's really it. My summary, I sent you guys an email, but that's it.
Anyone else?
Good evening, everyone. My name is Glenn Fleming, and I live between 510 East Cooper and 509 East Erie. Spoke to the chief last week because I wanted to bring him in on this. I'm at my house a lot, and the traffic is crazy. I sat out there one evening, probably 50 cars, maybe 5 were doing the speed limit. The rest were way over the speed limit. Some were really over the speed limit. When I mow along the side of the roads, I've almost been hit several times. I've asked the chief, he got some people out there this week. I saw him car this afternoon. Traffic on Erie really slowed down when the car was there. If we could get some more patrols. What I've seen is, once people get past second clock, at least on the east end that I live on, that's when the checker flag goes out and they fly. And talked to many of my neighbors, feel the same way. We've got to enforce the speed limits on the residential areas, please, before somebody gets hurt. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Anyone else? Okay. Boards and commission reports. We're back to Mr. Kramer. You have anything else you would like to say?
And I'd like to speak.
Oh, okay, well,
I'm sorry.
you're slow there, buddy. You're slow.
I am very slow. So, my name's Kevin O'Connell. My wife and I are residents, full-time residents of Folly Beach. We've owned a house for 10 years, starting in West Indian and moving over to Shadow Race a few years ago. I'm here tonight because of all the rumors that are being around about amendments being made to the referendum that was voted. I know that it's not the you guys can do what you want, because I don't think the
Wait a
referendum
minute,
is.
Kevin. Wait, are you speaking to what's on the agenda tonight?
I'm speaking
The
to you,
technical
I'm speaking to you on
amendments?
the referendum and what I feel.
We're not up to that right now.
Oh, that's why I wasn't doing anything.
So there you go.
All right, I'll wait.
But wait till we get all the information
tell
in.
me.
Yeah, and we get all the information in, then it'll be on the packet when they have their work sessions. They'll beat out whatever they wanna do.
So we're not speaking on this tonight?
No, the only thing
Okay,
we're
I was
speaking on,
misinformed.
the only thing we're working on tonight, the second reading of some technical language changes.
All right.
Which just changed resident to legal resident and that kind of stuff.
I was misinformed.
Okay,
All right, thank you.
thank you. Kevin used to be my neighbor, then he bailed
No
out
wonder
on
he moved
us.
to Shadow
He
Race.
bailed out on us and moved to the high end of town.
I know, I bailed.
Moved to the high dollar section of town. All right, so Isaac, you got anything else you'd like to say? Anybody else have a question for Mr. Kramer? All right. Ordinance 003-23 is the second reading. Ordinance of Folly Beach Code of Ordinances, Chapter 17, short-term rentals by adopting technical amendments to the language, implementing the short-term rental cap as approved by special election. Second reading, have a motion for approval. Have a second.
Second.
All right.
Did you get it?
Yeah,
Who's second? I'm sorry.
DJ. Any questions or comments? Mr. Pope?
No, I do have a comment. So I'd like to make an amendment. This would fall with regard to page 53, item 3, in the context of the cap, something we've spoken about before. I do feel strongly that the cap should be stood up now, and that we shouldn't wait to implement the cap once the number of ISTRs falls
Wait a
below
minute.
800.
We're doing wait list.
What are you
not
doing?
Sorry, thank you for that correction. Not the cap, the wait list, my apologies. I got cap and red in front of me. My comments are directed to the wait list, that the wait list be implemented immediately, not what is stated here, which says the wait list will be implemented once we get below the cap as passed by the referendum of 800. And for me, the importance of that is we've got plenty of people who are here now, residents among them, that might be interested in having an ISTR, and they will be disadvantaged if we were to implement this in the future, let's say 2, 4, 6 years out, once we're below the cap of 800, and somebody who moves to the community at that point in the future could somehow circumvent that.
What's your amendment?
What's the wording change?
So the wording change would be, apologies. Strike, when the number of investment short-term rental business licenses falls below the cap, a wait list will be established, such that it reads, a wait list will be established immediately and maintained by the city.
Okay, do I have a second? So, we said we were gonna maintain a wait list, but we said we didn't know what the wait list consisted of. So that's one of the things after collecting all the information. But, do you establish a wait list now? Do you establish a list of people who's gonna be on a lottery for your cap underneath? Do you do it every year? Do you have to redo it every year? you know, all those questions come up when you say established on the wait list immediately right now. Those answers.
I know what pages are gonna why, because I defended it the same way you did. But somebody said, but the way it reads is y'all could wait until then. I was like, but that's not what we're gonna do. Like, we're planning on doing this in, you know, a couple months. Like, well, that's not what it says. I'm like, well, you know what, to make you feel better, I'm sure we can change that, because it.
But if you say immediately, they expect you to do it tomorrow.
Well, that's not gonna happen.
Well, we could say,
I'm just saying, that's, when you say immediately, that's what immediately is.
right, it could be as soon as practicable. But certainly not, the way that it reads now is that it will be done when we're below the cap. That, again, could be 2, 4, 6 years into the future. And while I agree with what you're saying about we're gathering comments from the public, we're gonna revisit this, there are no guarantees at that time that this will be addressed. I happen to think this is an opportunity.
So why don't you put some more teeth in it? Why don't you say something like an annual wait list
Thank you.
will be established by June the 30th of every year?
A wait list will be established before we reach the cap number, so that people can get in line, something to that effect. So it says, it doesn't say we're doing it
Can't say
tomorrow.
we do it before we reach it, because we're already way beyond it.
Right. But the way this is saying is we're not gonna do a cap until we fall below it. So we're gonna do it before we get to that point. Just, never mind.
Before we fall below a cap number?
That's what it says, no.
So would it be better if we said as soon as practicable? Is that too ambiguous? And if so, I would say within 90 days.
Well, that's why I said, why don't you say something like, annual renewal wait list will be formed every year before June the 30th.
Because I don't know that an annual renewal wait list is the proper
Right.
procedure that we're gonna have.
Yeah, I'd like ultimately for that discretion.
What's the,
But what is the wait list now? That's what I'm saying. You're saying a wait list, but you're not giving them anything to go by what a wait list is.
Okay, so.
When you sign up on the wait list, what does that get you?
it get-
Nothing
it's
right
a-
now.
well, again, I
it just
personally.
puts a little more fire under our feet to do something sooner
Yeah.
than 5 years
So
from now.
my amendment would be that a wait list be established within 90 days of passage. The process for a wait list to be established within 90 days of passage of this ordinance. And then for staff to figure out the logistics as necessary, they would come back to us. But as far as I'm concerned, it's gonna be an application that gets date stamped. The city and/or the applicant has responsibility to produce that when we get below 800 to show, I had this submission dated this date, and if you can't show me somebody that was before me, I'm next in line.
But you still don't get what I'm saying.
I do, and
I
I'm
got you.
withdrawing my second, if that's what you do. I'm not
Yeah.
trying to force us to do it in 90 days and do all that. We will get to it before, like I explained, the person probably told you that. I explained to them, we're not gonna wait until that says we're gonna do it before that. That was just to make them feel better. I'm not gonna make somebody feel better to go through all this homework. Sorry. It's written fine the way it is. We know we're gonna tackle it in a couple months, but we don't need to pigeonhole ourselves.
All right, no motion. Unless somebody else wants to second it.
Well, I'd like to talk about it just a little bit. I see,
You have to second it.
second. I see what Mr. Barker's saying is that the sooner we stand it up, if it takes us to wait for the cap and we get below the cap, we don't get below the cap for 4 years, and then we go to stand this up, somebody who moves here 4 years from now would have an equal shot at securing a list on the wait list as somebody who's lived here from day one.
But that's what I'm saying. See, all that has to go, we've had this discussion with, time and time again, over and over and over previously. If you create a wait list, what does the wait list do? Does it buy you a space on that list this year, and you have to apply next year? Or does it put your name in the hopper for a lottery? You know, those parameters hadn't been developed yet. So if you wanna say, make a wait list, which gets you nothing
Well,
right now,
well-
without those parameters being established for a wait list.
I think
I guess,
finding some wording to ensure that a wait list will be started before we reach that cap number is what we're trying to do.
That's right.
But with the exact language is kind of hard to determine right this second, especially if he wants to do parameters. We need to discuss that later. But I just don't want to pigeon myself to 90 days. That's not going to happen.
I think that's when Mr. Barker said as soon as practical, instead of waiting. And I know the mayor challenged him about like put some teeth into it, but we're not ready to put teeth in this thing. But I think we are willing to tell people we're gonna do it sooner rather than later. And sooner might be 90 days, sooner might be 6 months, but we don't need to wait until we get below 800, because that could be 5, 6, 7 years out. So we should, I think Mr. Rich said, hold our feet to the fire and try to get this done as soon as possible. And as soon as possible, or as soon as practical, makes sense. And that's the motion, the amendment that I would second.
And I'll revert to
So-
my original proposal, as soon as practicable.
And that's fine, but you still haven't given these folks anything. But anyway.
Well, we haven't figured those details out, but we're telling
I'm-
people,
That's fine, that's fine. I'm not arguing with you. I'm just saying, I'm just making a statement. You still haven't given them
we
anything.
have not.
We're actually holding us accountable, more accountable.
There you go.
Correct.
But you were supposed to be accountable anyway, so.
Well,
Anybody
I
else?
can count as a start.
All right, Mr.
Just to make sure I've got it
You will
right.
create a wait list as soon as practical.
Right, we're gonna strike when the number of investment short-term rental business licenses falls below the cap. We're just gonna say a wait list will be established and maintained.
As soon as practical, excuse me.
So this is the vote on the amendment. Mr. Grooms?
Yes.
Dr. Houghton?
No.
Mr. Rich?
Yes.
Mr. Farley?
Yes.
Mr. Parker?
Yes.
Mayor Goodwin?
No.
Passes.
Now back to the original. Anybody else?
Mr. Parker?
Yes.
Mr. Farley?
Yes.
Mr. Grooms?
Yes.
Dr. Houghton?
No.
Mr. Rich?
Yes.
Mayor Goodwin?
Yes.
Passes. Second reading.
So, ordinance 004-23. Whenever you're ready. You ready? Ordinance amending the Folly Beach Code of Ordinances, Chapter 110, Business Regulations by prescribing the content of certain notices, establishing procedures for appeals hearing, and setting time limits for appeals-related actions. This is the second reading. Have a motion for approval?
So moved.
Have a second? Second. And this holds the court accountable. Any discussion? Mr. Pope?
Mr. Grooms?
Yes.
Mr. Farley?
Yes.
Mr. Parker?
Yes.
Mr. Rich?
Yes.
Dr. Houghton?
Yes.
Mayor Goodwin?
Yes.
Passes.
Ordinance. Whoops. You're wearing those things already.
Thanks.
You won't be wearing them long like that either.
Yeah, thank you.
Okay, you ready for ordinance 006?
Yes, sir.
Ordinance 006-23, an ordinance amending the Folly Beach Code of Ordinances, Chapter 153, Folly Beach Code of Ordinances require approval from Special Events Committee for weddings on public property with more than 25 participants, including attendees. This is the second reading. Have a motion for approval? Have a second?
Second.
Any discussion?
Kelly had mentioned something about the time for the Special Events Committee to approve an application. Do we know how long that's gonna be?
Typically it takes, when y'all get a request, it takes y'all what, 2 or 3 days to get together? I mean, they don't spread it, they don't drag it out.
Okay, it's less than a week.
Yeah,
Okay. All right.
they just have to get everybody in one room, which is like, they have donuts and say, come on down to the meeting.
Okay.
In our last meeting, Mayor Pro Tem Rich posed a question of Mr. Wilson regarding constitutional right of assembly up to 50 people. Has that been resolved? So what we're saying here is we're limiting it.
Did you get my email?
Oh, I'm sorry, I didn't see that.
Yes. Yeah. Do you want me to answer?
Please,
Yeah.
please.
So I went back and looked, because we have looked at this issue a couple of times. And I mean, the concern goes all the way back to our protests issues we had several years ago. And the concerns that are generally focused on by the court is when you require a permit for a very small number of people protesting. Courts won't allow the city, say, to require a group of 5 people who are gonna protest something to get a permit. Follow? So I don't, the main thing is, it becomes pretty clear looking at these ordinances that a number like 25 is not a concern that the courts have raised for right to assembly issues. And secondly, I'm not sure any of those laws that they're looking at are gonna really apply to a wedding.
It should be a protest.
So I think, I mean, it's fine. I mean, I don't think there's a concern. If it went down to like 10, I would start maybe dive into it a little bit more. But I can tell you, I can't find any cases, I did a search, that talk about the right to assemble in the context of a wedding, except some of our COVID cases from 3 years ago. And even then, they were more or less, you can require a permit for wedding assemblies.
Thank you.
Just to say it again, I think we're gonna bury our special events committee with 25. I think 50 is the better number. Anything under that is short and quick. Anything more than that needs some city interaction or at least some knowledge of. I wish it would go through, but I suppose I was blue last time, so.
All right. Mr. Pope?
Mr. Brooms?
Yes.
Mr. Rich?
Nope.
Mr. Farley?
Yes.
Dr. Houghton?
Yes.
Mr. Barker?
Yes.
Mayor Goodwin?
Yes.
Passes second.
Okay, 007-23. An ordinance amending the section 151.47 of the Folly Beach Code of Ordinances by changing reference to opacity requirements from shading coefficient to visible light transmittance. Have a motion for approval as the second reading.
So moved.
There you go. DJ Hannon, yes. Okay. If you have any questions, we'll get Mr. Letts up here to answer them. If not, Mr. Pope.
Mr. Barker?
Yes.
Mr. Rich?
Yes.
Mr. Farley?
Yes.
Dr. Houghton?
Yes.
Mr. Brooms?
Yes.
Mayor Goodwin?
Yes.
Passes second.
Okay. On to new business ordinance 009. Authorizing and directing the city of Folly Beach to enter into an intergovernmental agreement relating to South Carolina local revenue services, participate in one or more local revenue service programs, to execute and deliver one or more participate program supplements, and other matters relating thereto. Have a second?
Second.
Any questions, comments?
It's all started by a name change for the state,
Yeah.
Yep, and it's a
matching up the name change to the contract.
Mr. Rich?
Yes.
Dr. Houghton?
Yes.
Mr. Brooms?
Yes.
Mr. Farley?
Yes.
Mr. Barker?
Yes.
Mayor Goodwin?
Yes.
Passes first.
Resolution 18-23, a resolution by Folly Beach City Council changing a fee for additional business licenses stickers to a set percentage of the city's cost. This way you won't have to come back every year to change the price if they go up, whatever. You still get 2 free ones with your application.
Motion to approve.
Any questions, comments? Mr. Pope?
Mr. Barker?
Yes.
Mr. Farley?
Yes.
Mr. Brooms?
Yes.
Dr. Houghton?
Yes.
Mr. Rich?
Yes.
Mayor Goodwin?
Yes.
Passes.
Resolution by Folly Beach City Council authorizing up to $10,000 from the Beach and Marsh Reserve account to pay for the removal of a vessel abandoned in the marshes of the Folly River. Have a motion for approval?
So moved.
Have a second?
Second.
It's the last big one, right, Chief?
Yeah, that's big.
So far? Yeah.
Well,
Yeah,
that's the one thing I'd like to bring up, is that when we've done this in the past, we haven't spent much more than that on taking out several boats, because the mobilization is the biggest expense. So at this point, if there's only one out there, do we really want to spend $2,000 on that? Is it a dire emergency to get it out of the way? Or we know we're gonna have a couple more over the next few years? Let's just wait have a better expenditure of the money and spend about the same amount of money to take out more.
So this boat specifically was going to be removed when we had the grant a few years ago, and the owner contested it with DNR, and DNR didn't allow us to take it out at that time. But just so you know, the cost at that time to remove it with that mobilization was $20,000. So the price we're getting is a significant discount, and I got confirmation today from Wounded Nature that while they're mobilized, they're gonna grab the sailboat that I mentioned in an email to y'all a few weeks ago. So that will finalize and get all remaining vessels out of the waterway. Hopefully y'all saw the news. We were on the news yet again. We are absolutely a leader in the state of South Carolina as it relates to waterway management. And I think that's something we should be proud of. And this puts a stamp and finishes the project, and then we can go along the way staying on top of things before they end up in the marsh.
The boat appears to be in reasonably good condition, so once it is removed from its perch on the marsh, does the city have ownership of it? Does the salvage company have ownership of it?
So believe it or not, it doesn't look bad in the pictures. However, having been right next to it, it really isn't in good shape. There's been probably about 5 foot of water in the bilge for, I don't know, maybe 6 or 7 years at this point.
But if Mr. Barker wants it, we could give it to him.
We'll tell it to your house.
Right on over there.
While I do have a waterfront home, I don't have any interest in this particular vessel. So there's no salvage value, is what
No,
you're saying?
it's been picked over the years, and it's in pretty rough shape.
So the DNR finally ruled that we can remove it?
Yes, the owner died.
Oh.
I issued him a citation. I got a sealed sentence.
You give him a heart attack?
Yeah, I guess. So he was found guilty in court of violation of our mooring ordinance, got a sealed sentence, and, basically we've been awaiting catching him, and then we were alerted that he passed away out of country, and so there we are. So at this point, yeah, we're good to remove him.
Any other questions?
Mr. Farley?
Yes.
Mr. Groom?
Yes.
Mr. Rich?
Yes.
Mr. Barker?
Yes.
Dr. Houghton?
Yes.
Mayor Goodwin?
Yes.
Passes.
So resolution 20-23, a resolution by Folly Beach City Council awarding the contract for services described in the Folly Beach City RFQ 02-23 water main replacements. And that would be given to the JMT Johnson, Murin and Thompson Incorporated. Have a motion for approval?
So moved.
For a second?
Second.
Were they in fact the lowest?
Mr.
We're just best qualified.
It's qualified, sir. We couldn't base it on dollar amounts.
You need to,
It's design service.
you need to talk into the mic.
This was an RFQ, which is qualification based only. We're not allowed by the grant to.
It's like the architect thing.
Right.
Yep, I remember, thanks.
Hang on, we got one more coming. Any other questions? Mr. Pope?
Mr. Rich?
Yes.
Dr. Houghton?
Yes.
Mr. Barker?
Yes.
Mr. Farley?
Yes.
Mr. Groom?
Yes.
Mayor Goodwin?
Yes.
Passes.
Resolution 21-23, a resolution by Folly Beach City Council awarding the contract for services described in the Folly Beach City RFQ 03-23 stormwater improvements. And that would be Weston and Sampson, would be awarded a contract. Have a motion for approval?
So moved.
Have a second?
Second.
Any questions? See, if you stood there, you wouldn't get a question. Mr. Pope?
Dr. Houghton?
Yes.
Mr. Farley?
Yes.
Mr. Groom?
Yes.
Mr. Barker?
Yes.
Mr. Rich?
Yes.
Mayor Goodwin?
Yes.
Passes.
Resolution 22-23 is a resolution authorizing administration to join a class action lawsuit to recover expenses related to current and future testing, treatment, and remediation due to forever chemicals. Have a motion for approval?
Moved.
Have a second? Any discussion, questions? Let Kyle off the hook.
Mr. Grooms,
Yes.
Mr. Rich,
Yes.
Dr. Houghton,
Yes.
Farley.
Yes.
Mr. Barker.
Yes.
Mayor Goodman.
Yes.
Pass.
Okay, city council comments, Mr. Rich.
Have a nice night.
Good one. Mr. Barker?
Appreciate the cooperation among the group on the establishment of the wait list as soon as practicable. I think it's a big win for the residents as well as other property owners in the community that live like residents.
I've been thinking about three things lately, among a whole list. First of all, I want to say that senior skip day really hit me, and because it could have been us just as easily. So, whatever you need, I just really admire the work that has to be done. That's the first thing. The other thing is, I just really also think the more programming, the more things we do to bring our community together, whether it be seniors or children, the more the better to keep that fabric. We may agree to disagree, so I really appreciate that work. Lastly, I've been agonizing whether I will speak this, but it is my comment, so I will. I apologize to the folks that I promised that I wouldn't make any changes to anything, just to let the dust settle. Didn't matter sides and what we were called or whatnot. So I did get challenged by that because I believe technical is a good thing, but I feel obligated to just say that to folks, that I really honor the vote, and it's just my voice that I'm telling you how I feel. Thank you.
Mr. Farley?
No, sir. Have a good night.
Mr. Grooms?
Yes, we have the Exchange Club's famous yard sale coming up April 29th. That's the last Saturday of this month. It'll be at the Hut, 206 West Indian. We hope to see you all there. We are still taking donations. We've had a great response from the community, so there's a lot of good items. If you'd like to take a little peek, we're going to be doing a little pizza and pricing on our regular scheduled meeting the third Thursday, which is April 20th. That'll be at 7 p.m. So if you want some pizza and come get a little peek and see what the prices are going to be on some of these fine items. We've got some good furniture. And again, it's great to talk about the community coming together. They really have come together and donate a lot. So if you need anything, you can call me, DJ, you can call the mayor. The mayor will figure out how to get it all picked up. So.
I'll get you fixed up.
You got a truck?
I got a truck, yeah.
We're gonna charge you for this. This isn't a public service announcement.
Well, you know, it is for charity. Well, it benefits school scholarship. We give away scholarships to children that are on the island. So I think last year we gave away, what, three or four, I think, maybe 4 scholarships. So, and it's cool. It was 4. So, but the seeds, yes, I almost forgot about this. Thank you, Jenna. Jenna arranged through Wells Fargo and I believe the South Carolina Wildlife Federation, native milkwood seeds that you can plant to save our monarch butterfly. I saw them out today. They were absolutely stunningly beautiful. So grab your seeds. Jenna's got a pack of seeds for you before you leave, and let's help our wildlife.
Have a motion to adjourn?
Motion to adjourn.
Off the record at 8 o'clock.